Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. And today I got another review for you. A Spanish horror film. Yes, a Spanish horror film. A little Spanish horror film called Veronica. Yes, Veronica or Veronica. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all. Probably not, and I don't want to offend anybody. But here we have a movie that was being advertised. It was all over Netflix. Not all over Netflix, but all over the social media, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitters. It kept popping up everywhere. My feed is filled with Veronica. Why is it filled with Veronica? And then I see it's like, scariest movie of all time. People can't finish watching it. They turn it off halfway through. And I'm like, I don't scare that easily. But I like a challenge. Let's check this movie out. Let's see if it scares me enough to where I'm like, wow, I'm actually horrified. I am scared for my life. Let's watch this movie. Let's put it on. And what do I think about it? Okay, yeah, that's about it. It's not terrifying. It's creepy at points, but it has faults. And let me get those out of the way first. First of all, I don't mind a slow-paced horror film. That's fine. And if it would have kept that throughout the entire film, this slow-paced, creepy, atmospheric, supernatural, kind of psychological horror film, that would have been fantastic. But it falls into some trappings that I can't stand. And let me tell you what those are. It's when horror films get loud. Yes, I hate when horror films get loud because, it then ruins the whole suspense. I'm not talking about the soundtrack. The soundtrack is awesome. I loved the synthetic kind of 70s, 80s style soundtrack. It was awesome. I loved it a lot. But it's when things started banging and stuff like that. It's annoying. It's not scary. Knock that off. But that happened way too often. It'd be like they're building suspense and then things just get loud and crazy. And I'm just thinking, this would have been better if just something kind of in the background happening and it's just creepy, because there are a few good shots here. There are a few good shots, good creepy shots of you just see something in the background and it's done really well. It would have been fantastic if the whole movie was like that, but it's not. It's mostly just loud horror, and I hate loud horror. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind a fun horror film every now and again, the movie's more fun, going for that more fun horror tone, like a horror thrill ride or something like that, like a haunted house where it's all like loud and scary, things jumping out at you and things like, I don't mind that at all. I actually like that. I really liked the movie It, the 2007 It. I loved it because it was basically a horror film that was designed to be similar to a haunted house, and I didn't mind that at all. I knew exactly what's getting into with that, and then when I saw it, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted out of this movie. But this film, it didn't feel like it knew what it wanted to be. Did it want to be a slow-paced, creepy, Exorcist-like horror film, or did it want to be that haunted house thrill ride that I keep saying, where, everything's loud, obnoxious, things are jumping out at you, but in the end it's all okay? It really didn't know what it wanted to be, and I don't really understand that. I don't care what the Rotten Tomatoes score on anything is, but 88%, I didn't get it. I feel like it being said is the scariest movie ever made. It's not. Let's not fool ourselves here. It's not even close. But it does have some good psychological moments. It did keep me thinking, okay, is she actually being haunted by this thing, or is this just all in her head? Because you can argue it's either one. And that's why I liked it. It did handle that at least well. But the problem is that it just got too loud too often. And it's hard to explain what I mean without actually seeing it. But like I said, it's when things are getting really intense and then it's suspenseful and then it just goes crazy. Now the ending, but the climax, that's fine. I don't mind that too much of the climax because I get it. That's supposed to be the end of the movie. That's when you're supposed to have the big guns show up and all that stuff, like with any movie. But that was the reason why. That was my issue with The Conjuring 2. I had an issue with that as well. Whereas in The Conjuring 2, the whole movie was this really well done, creepy, atmospheric horror film, paced really well, kind of slow burning. But the ending was just way too frantic, and that was my problem with the movie. The climax of that film broke it, and that was kind of the problem I had. And obviously, not like I said, not all the time do I care about that. Like with It and other films like it. It's so I don't always have that problem, but sometimes it's just a little too much. In this film, it just didn't have that balance. It just didn't know whether or not it should keep with the pace or become more Americanized, as I think some people put it, where it's really loud just to get, the teenagers more scared than anyone else. That's just my preferences. I like movies that are scarier when they're slower and they have things just playing in the back of your mind, your subconscious. And Another reason why this movie isn't that scary is because it looks too clean. It looks too new. That's a problem. All horror films from here on out, unless they're kind of lower budget, that's the problem that they're not going to be able to fix if they want to shoot them on with a nicer camera. If you shoot it with a nicer camera, it's not going to be as scary. Like The Exorcist, if it was shot on a camera that was used, that is made today, like an actual film quality camera that you'd see on the big screen, it would not work. It can't look this clean to be scary. It just doesn't. There has to be a little dirtiness behind it. That's why The Exorcist works so well. That's why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original at least, works so well, because it needs a little bit of that dirt in it. It needs to look kind of grainy because it's off-putting. Our eyes see things clearly all the time. It's when we see something that's abnormal that kind of screws with our heads a little bit, you know what I mean? I mean, that's not the same for everybody, but that's why I believe that, like, movies that come out from the, let's say, the early 2010s up until the future, any horror film that wants to shoot on a more recent camera, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Maybe on like an iPhone like this, it can work because the iPhone camera isn't really that spectacular. I mean, it's a good camera, don't get me wrong, but it still has a little bit of dust behind it, if you know what I mean. But having horror movies look clean, it prevents them from being able to be as scary as they can possibly be. That's just how it is. There has to be a little bit of off-putting behind it. That's why I really liked, it's not a horror film, and I like talking about this movie a lot in general. That's why I really liked Brawl in Cell Block 99, is because it didn't look as clean as it should, because it wasn't made on like some really big budget Hollywood film. It didn't look like a movie you'd see on the big screen. I mean, I know it showed on some screens like rarely limited, but that's what made it work. And similar to Green Room didn't look like a big budget horror film. It looked like a smaller budget horror film, and it was made on with a smaller camera. I mean, it still looked nice, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it looked like, you know, a Blood Freak or something like that. Let's not fool ourselves here. Green Room did look pretty good, but it had a grain behind it, like, and that's what made it. Now, Green Room wasn't necessarily terrifying or anything like that. It was more disturbing and upsetting and harsh. And part of that was because how it looked. If a movie wants to come out now and it wants to be genuinely scary, it cannot be made on a Hollywood camera. It has to be made on a smaller camera. That's just the way it is. That's the only way you're going to get a movie to be genuinely scary. And that's why most remakes don't work, is because they look too clean. You can't, and I'm not talking about blood and gore. You can get blood and gore in any movie, and it doesn't mean it's going to make it scary. You can make it fun, don't get me wrong. Blood can make things fun, but you're not going to make it scary. Blood doesn't equal dirty, because like with big budget effects and all that stuff, you have blood spraying everywhere, especially with CGI blood. That doesn't make it scary. It needs to have grain. It needs to look abnormal. And that's another complaint I had with this movie, is that the creature in the film, yeah, there's a creature in it, and I hate how they actually showed it. I wish, like, I don't mind it. Like, let's say you see the shadow of it on the background. There are some shots where you do see just the shadow, just kind of walking around and things like that. But those worked well. But the problem with those is that they had really loud music playing. If it was just quiet and you just kind of saw the shadow hovering around, that would have worked so much better. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. And the problem here is that, how do I explain it? The thing moved too human-like, because it kind of just walks around like it's, yeah, I'm a demon. Ooh, I walk around like a human. No, that's not scary. And I mean, that's not scary to me, because I know everyone's saying it's like, oh, so terrifying. But there's a video I saw online. It was like of this, these guys are in a van or car or what have you. And there's like this, and it's like called, it's like supposed to be a witch or whatever. And it's kind of moving kind of awkwardly. Humanoid things that move inhuman-like is scary. That's what's scary. Like, if it would have walked like more, like Silent Hill, the Silent Hill movie, those nurses, those contortionist nurses they got to like move around all like this, that's unnerving. If it would have moved more like that, it would have been so much more effective, because it's inhuman. It's something that looks human. It has a human-esque body, but it's not moving like how we move. It makes it inhuman, and our brains can't comprehend that. It's something that's unnerving. We're not used to seeing that, and that's what makes it twice as creepy. you can't just have, like, I hated how it looked too. Like, why did it have to just, because it's so uninspired. It's just one big black thing. It's just black and just kind of has like like not fangs, like claw hands. Like, it doesn't look scary at all. It just looks like, I don't know, like, I know it was a lower budget movie, so I can't like fault it for that too much, but it just looked kind of underwhelming. Like, it could have been so much better. But let's talk about some things that did work in the film. What did work in the film, absolutely was the lead girl who played Veronica. She did wonderfully. I loved her in this movie, and I hope she gets more work. She was fantastic. I loved her in this film. She played the character really well. She was very dramatic. She was very poised. She knew how to control the character. She had the timing. She had everything fantastically. Even the kid actors handled their parts really well. And just the acting all around was fantastic. And obviously, the really young child, he, like, you can just, he's just a young child. You can't really hold too much against that. But he handled himself okay. Not too bad, not too great. But for his age, he's fine. I'm not going to flack him too much. God bless all the actors in this film. But what really was fantastic in this film were the camera angles. Wow! Like, the camera angles in this film were phenomenal. They're some of the best angles I have seen in a film in years. I'm not even kidding, folks. The camera angles in this movie, like, were jaw-dropping to me. Like, I was like, wow, that was awesome. There were some shots that were just awe-inspiring. And that's kind of the thing you have to do when you make a lower budget movie, is you have to be creative with, like, even the smaller things like camera angles. They have to be creative, and they were, and they weren't just creative, just like kind of like you know, some people like kind of like, ooh, I'm being creative and stuff like that, but it doesn't work. This guy knows how to make creative camera angles but make them look fantastic, and I loved that. The camera angles in this film were well timed, well executed, well shot. The camera angles, wonderful. I can't praise the angles in this movie enough. The angles are just wonderful. If take nothing else from this review, just know the angles were the best. Just the shots, the angles, the camera timing in itself were fantastic. And there's this one kind of chase scene near the end of the movie where it at least looked one shot, and it was really, like, it looked great. And if I could give a movie just a perfect 10 for just camera angles alone, this film would be a perfect 10. But unfortunately, it's those minor things. The whole fact that it's just too loud of a horror film. The fact that the creature is just kind of this black glob of nothing that really just isn't too scary. It looks too new. That's another, like I said, if a movie looks too new, it can't be as scary as it can be because it just looks too clean, because our eyes see clean things all the time. It's why when we see things on the news that they look so disturbing, because they kind of also look, because news cameras are a little bit grainier than a movie camera is. So when we see tragic events happening on the news, not only are we seeing a real life tragedy happen, and that's already disturbing itself, but our brain is also comprehending that it doesn't look clean, and it makes it dirtier. And since the movie is such a new film, and really it's no fault of its own, but something like any horror film nowadays can't escape from, is just, if it looks too new, it's not going to be as scary. That's just the way it is. But I'm going to compare this movie to the film Ouija, because a reviewer I really like, Quentin Reviews, was reviewing the first one recently. It's much better than that. I haven't seen Ouija because I heard it was terrible, and I'm not wasting my time. Life's too short, folks. Like, I've seen CinemaSins. Did CinemaSins do a favor of it? No, I saw reviews of it from other reviewers, so I've basically seen Ouija, okay? I don't need to watch the movie anymore. I've seen the movie already. I've seen the reviews. I know what it's like. I know what happens in it. And this movie is basically Ouija done better. Now, like I said, there are faults to it, but unlike Ouija, this film is actually worth seeing. Ouija is just corporate BS. This film at least had heart. It had a purpose. It had a vision. Ouija was just an advertisement for Ouija boards. That's all it was. Let's not fool ourselves here. It's a corporate thing made by Hasbro. This film actually wanted to tell a story about a girl who got screwed over by this cursed thing. And I don't know, like, I saw something about, like, in the beginning of the movie, they say something about a police report and what have you. And I think I saw one article saying the real event of Veronica. And I'm just like, I highly doubt this is how it turned out, especially in the film. At the end of the film, they showed some crime scene pictures, but I'm pretty sure they're just stock photos from the film. I could totally be wrong. But overall, Veronica, it is worth checking out. It is on Netflix, so it's not like you have to pay a pretty penny to watch it. It's not perfect, but it is entertaining at times. Like I said, it is just a little too loud. I did enjoy watching it, but if it would have just stayed if it would have picked either being a haunted house film or a more slow-burning atmospheric horror film, it would have been better either way. And because it seems like it wanted to try to meet in the middle, but that's really, really hard to accomplish, unfortunately. And really the only genre that can do that is the found footage genre, like Paranormal Activity, Rec, which the guy who directed this directed Rec as well. I like Rec a lot more. I actually love Rec. Rec is fantastic. I also like the second one. I never saw any of the ones after that. I've never even seen Quarantine or the sequel to Quarantine. I'm surprised Quarantine had a sequel. I know it apparently was made for direct-to-DVD or what have you. I only remember it lightly because it was attached to the Insidious DVD. But anyways, overall, this film is just kind of a good little spooky film to watch. Maybe even in the background. It's not required viewing. But if you just have nothing else to watch, I do recommend checking it out at least a little bit. If you're not feeling it, I understand turning it off halfway, but at least give it a shot. It's not perfect. Like I said, it's a little too loud. It didn't know whether or not it wanted to be one or the other. And like I said, that middle ground it tried to reach, it's really hard to do, and unfortunately didn't really hit that too much. But he still had a vision, and I still respect him for it. I will give this movie high props on that alone, and I definitely recommend checking it out because I do want this guy to make more films, as opposed to just that Hollywood machine that just cranks out crappy horror films every year. This one is at least entertaining enough, well acted, well shot, obviously. Great music, some creepy moments. Really, there's one scene with a TV that I thought was actually really creepy. If only the creature was more inspired looking and moved more inhuman-like as opposed to, just kind of casually walking. It also kind of reminded me of this other foreign horror film. I forget if it's called Bastion or Bastille or what have you. That one's more like Silent Hill, though. This one was trying to be more like The Exorcist. That Bastille or Bastion movie or what have you. That movie was basically the unofficial Silent Hill sequel that we never got. I don't count Silent Hill Revelations because that movie blew. But if you want an honest Silent Hill film, check out that Bastille or Bastion. I can't remember what that's called. I can't believe I didn't look that up. But that's on Netflix too, because that is basically the Silent Hill film that should have been made to begin with. But overall, this movie, give it a shot. Like I said, if you're not really feeling it at the beginning, in the first 20, 30 minutes in, you're not going to feel it the rest of the way through. But overall, I still do recommend it. I enjoyed it. Would I put in my favorite films of 2017? I don't think so, unfortunately. But like I said, it is worth checking out more than the crappy teen horror films that we normally get from Hollywood directly. Anyways, check it out if you want to. If you're not feeling it, like I said, just push it aside. It's not required viewing. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. God bless you all, and take care.